Hello, everyone. It's Charlton. Please subscribe to my channel. Tap the notification bell. I'd appreciate it majorly. All right, so I kind of just want to review the stuff that's out there now on the it's no longer a missing persons case. Vanessa Guillen is pretty much a murder investigation now, and even though they haven't positively confirmed that they were her remains found by the Leon River, everybody's going by that it was her. In fact, Tim Miller, who's the head of the volunteer search group, Texas EquiSearch, he's actually on this long interview with Nancy Grace. I'll play just a little bit of it, maybe. And I listened to the entire thing, as well as the attorney from the families on here, Natalie Kwan, and some reporters and a forensics expert too. But I mostly wanted to hear from Tim Miller, and I mean I read this article at Crime Online about several. It says there are several, according to Tim Miller from Texas EquiSearch, there are several suspects in connection with the disappearance of 20-year-old Vanessa Guillen, and I listened to the whole thing just to see exactly, if that's what he thought. And normally several means more than two to me, more than three even. But so far, there's just been one person that's been arrested and another person that committed suicide, and most people believe that the person who committed suicide was the prime suspect in her disappearance. He was named by Natalie Kwan during the press conference they gave today, up on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C., along with the family. She named him as Aaron David Robinson, and I believe he's a sergeant there. The Fort Hood authorities, the Criminal Investigation Division, or whatever, they title him a junior soldier. I don't know if that's a sergeant or not, but I mean, based on like his picture over at his Instagram account, and this is his Instagram account here, and he actually follows the other person who was arrested, who, initially, I think even in the press release the statement provided by the Fort Hood Criminal Investigation Demand called her his estranged wife, but it's not. I don't think it is. That was erroneously reported that way by the Criminal Investigation Division. I think she's the estranged wife of another Fort Hood soldier, who isn't named in any of the reporting, who, up to the best of my knowledge, is presently there. And I know his name, but I won't say it. And I will say she's been booked. She's sitting in a county jail in Bell County right now, and she, I think, is facing a third-class felony, which is pretty low, I think. But and they have a booking photo of her over at Twitter, in an orange jumpsuit kind of thing, and she actually has orange hair, and somebody's sort of being cute that made a comment about that. Anyways, but it's not his estranged wife. This is Aaron David Robinson. It's his girlfriend, I believe. And, but like I said, she has an estranged husband that's also a Fort Hood soldier, or a former Fort Hood soldier. I think he's a former Fort Hood soldier. Excuse me. So, but those are the only two people that have been implicated in this crime so far. We have no idea what she's going to be charged with. And, and he's now deceased. So, I mean, the investigation will still proceed, but, he's obviously not going to be charged. He's dead, but he obviously, I think, would have been, he would have been the prime suspect in the murder of Vanessa Guillen. So, Tim Miller gives quite a few specifics in terms of like what he knows about this, and he seems to have been completely out in front on this. There are many different police agencies that have been part of this investigation, including the investigators from the Fort Hood Criminal Investigation Command, the Texas Rangers, the U.S. Marshals, a task force from the U.S. Marshal's Office, and the Killeen Police Department, the Bell County Sheriff's Office, multiple, so it's not just been the Army, but Tim Miller and Texas EquiSearch has been, without a doubt, has done a ton of the legwork, and they're basically the one who located, some of the evidence that basically led to finding the grave. It's so strange. He describes how, and I believe it was the 22nd, the Monday was the 22nd. Maybe it was the next day, Tuesday. I believe it was Monday, where they found he called it a pelican case, and it was a portion of a pelican case that hadn't been burned up because there had been some huge kind of large bonfire that this individual, and maybe along with his girlfriend or maybe others there too, tried to destroy evidence and also prepare a grave and then ultimately, dispose of the body, in a shallow grave, but did it in a way that they took extreme measures, almost like, it's just somebody who was quite resourceful and thought it through to avoid detection. The forensics expert was talking about that, and that, because they basically, I think the body was, I saw in other reports that it was burned. The body was burned, but Tim Miller didn't mention that in this, but they did use lime. They dug a shallow grave, and it was a shallow grave. It wasn't deep, but maybe they were pressed for time. The forensics experts mentions that, and they used lime as well as they mixed concrete. So they put Vanessa Guillen in the shallow grave, either lined with lime and crushed stone or stones. I'm not sure if the stones went on the bottom or on top, and then poured in, mixed concrete on her so that she was literally partially encased, almost like a tomb, in concrete. In fact, when they to transport her remains, they literally put the entire, small slab of concrete that had her encased in it, I think not completely, but whatever had rested over top of her, into a body bag, and they're having to, and Tim Miller is just doing some presumption that having to, it's terrible, just, chip away at the concrete to get at her, and, in order to determine an official cause of death and so forth, So, and the forensics expert was also, indicating that in addition to hiding the body, that would maybe help prevent, normally when you dig a hole anywhere, there leaves, you can see that somebody dug a hole there. Even if they backfilled them really well, things settle and it's just easily detected. But maybe that was another way to, in addition to hide the odor and so that people wouldn't detect that a grave was dug there so easily. In fact, where he found the pelican case, which apparently is like a huge, 3-foot, plastic container. I think it opens up like a giant chest and you can buckle it. It's even waterproof to some extent, and it's massive, 3 foot long. He said 3 foot by 3 foot, but I'd say it's 3 foot by whatever. That was partially burnt at the where he found that was literally feet. He called it 3 feet from where the grave was. So when he found that, and I believe, the Texas Rangers and the Killeen Police Department, actually, I don't know if that would have been the Killeen Police Department because that's Bell County and that is Bell County and that's outside of the county that encompasses Killeen. I think Coryell County is Killeen, Texas, but various search police agencies were there at the location where he found this evidence, as well as the burn, the remains of a huge burn fire that he described went at least as high as 15 feet because you could see branches on trees that were up that high that were burnt from the fire. He was explaining he's not sure how no one managed to see that, but the police were there with cadaver dogs, and they didn't even sense, because of the body was disposed of so carefully, they didn't even sense the decomposing body just 3 feet from them. It was only a week later, because of the rain and then the heat, something like that somebody who was working on a fence very close to it, smelt the odor and it was exposed that way. It's just kind of weird, but he also described that somebody, I think many people, just regular citizens that live in the area that had any knowledge of this, were coming forward to him, as well as to the authorities. And somebody had come forward to him that had said they witnessed somebody on the night that Vanessa went missing in the same parking lot where she was last seen, on the base. The civilian, I don't know if civilians live on the base or what, but that's how he describes it, is a civilian witnessed an individual carrying a large pelican case around, I want to say like 8 hours after she went missing. So it would have been around like 8, 9, 10 o'clock, something like that in the evening, struggling very hard to get this pelican case, as if it was extremely heavy, into his vehicle. And after that person came forward to them, they literally went to a judge to get, I'm assuming that's with the authorities, because I don't think that Texas Equisearch has that capability, or legally you're not allowed to, as a private citizen, get warrants to search phone records, to find out where he went, that individual. And I believe, he didn't name the individual as Aaron David Robinson, but I'm assuming that that's who it was, And it's those phone records is what led them to the location where the fire was, and at that time they didn't even know, they didn't locate the shallow grave, but he knew instantly, when he found the pelican case, partially burned, that after what the witness had said, that, this was very, very likely, a murder investigation, and the odds of finding Vanessa Guillen alive were almost impossible. And it seems that that's the case. So, the person's, this is circulating everywhere on the internet, and that's Aaron David Robinson right there. That's the individual who killed himself. And the way it's described, I heard it described a couple different ways. I mean, he took off on foot, and that's why the attorney for the family, Natalie Kwan, basically released his name during the press conference, because there was a bolo, put out on him last night when he basically, took off. Supposedly, the description was that he was in army shorts, but he had his weapon with him too. I believe he was able to make it, some distance from the base on foot, and that, the Fort Hood Criminal Investigation Division, or the Fort Hood Police, basically provided information to the Killeen Police Department as well as the U.S. Marshal Service, which would make sense, a description and where he was potentially, in what vicinity where he was, and they spotted him pretty quickly walking on foot. As soon as they tried to approach him, pulled out a gun and shot himself. They don't indicate where he shot himself. I'm assuming he shot himself in the head, but and he was pronounced, or he was successful in killing himself with the self-inflicted gunshot wound. So but this is the picture that's out there circulating. There's another one. There's a couple different other superiors that are, I think, a little higher up than him, that I don't know that really necessarily relate to this. And everyone's obviously saying there's a cover-up involved and stuff like that. I mean, one of the things that Nancy Grace makes a big deal of in her 37-minute podcast, or whatever it's called, is that the authorities didn't notify the family of the remains when they found them. And actually, Tim Miller says that the sister, Myra, contacted him, looking for answers. Human remains, it was in the press, but she didn't know if it was her sister or not. And based on the information that he had assembled at this point in all his searching, he basically confirmed that it was very likely that it was. But the authorities, according to the family and the attorney for the families, never notified them of that. And they were, obviously weren't too happy about that. Even now, I will say, in the defense of the Army and all the investigators, it's just, I don't know if there's just more to this investigation than a simple sexual harassment and, now a murder investigation. If there wasn't something else, something larger of a criminal nature going on, who knows? That they were investigating and they're still investigating, whether there's other perpetrators that were involved and they're just basically letting these people think that they, it was, the coast was clear so that they could catch them and things like that, and they can't afford to give out information to anybody, even family members, as they proceed in their investigation, for reasons, that are pretty obvious, but, that was brought up. Before I move on, and then quickly, I'll show you, like, that's one of the Instagram accounts by the the girlfriend who's been arrested. She's got, or not, that's a Twitter account, and she's got a couple Instagram accounts. He follows her and she follows him on Instagram, and here's the booking photo, and then somebody's kind of being wise, basically saying you definitely knew where you were going because she's got orange hair, which matches her orange jumpsuit for the booking photo. So, but just so you hear from Tim Miller describing it, because it's really, it is pretty shocking that when he's talking about the witness who saw the individual trying to load the Pelican case into his car, and struggling, and how that basically led to them getting, going to a court and getting access to his phone records and pinning down his location that led them to the location near the Leon River. And, I'm assuming, even though there's so much going on in this interview, so it's so hard to, to retell the entire story, I'm assuming that, the police are involved in that, and probably the Army criminal investigators too. I don't know,
As far as I'm concerned, it's over with. Somebody actually seen somebody in one of them big Pelican cases, about 3 foot by 3 foot, one of them big plastic cases, and he was really struggling to go ahead and get this into his vehicle. After witness came forward, they had enough information to go ahead and go to a judge, and so we actually got the phone record person, went how long he was there and everything.
Hold on just a moment. I want to tell everybody what you're talking about, a Pelican.
So, you could listen to this whole interview, and it's very good. I would, I'll link it down in the description. When he says we, that includes the police. I would assume that includes all the various agencies that were helping in the investigation, the FBI, and including Army investigators, So that's pretty much everything that's known so far. I'm not even sure. Now, I still have lingering questions about the biggest thing is, and it could be that the person is just crazy, and just vicious. It's very possible that's all it is. But I just don't know how you go from, I don't know how you, the motive for the murder, how you go from sexual harassment, which the family has repeatedly said, I think in the press and in press conferences, that the Army basically, didn't even consider sexual harassment a criminal matter, because for legal purposes, it's basically not. So how do you go from somebody who's facing something that's not, he doesn't even have criminal consequences to committing full-blown murder, to hide that? It just seems absolutely nuts to me. But people are nuts, and people can be vicious. And whether he just snapped in a fit of rage and killed her right in the armory room, in a confrontation, that's very possible. And that's actually, Tim Miller believes she was killed in the armory room and stored, like in the Pelican case, probably for hours in between the time she was last seen, between, around 11:30, 12:30 in the parking lot, to the time the witness saw this individual loading the Pelican case into his car, which was like 8-10 hours later, and he believes she was potentially killed right there. I assume by just the one individual. And then he solicited his girlfriend to help assist in hiding it, and maybe that's all there is to it. It's very possible, and the girlfriend is just a complete fool and ends up helping her monster boyfriend who allegedly, viciously murdered this woman, to dispose of the body. I don't know, but. Like I said, that's his, I was looking up, I think that hat there, which actually has a picture there, I believe that is, somebody, even if it is a junior soldier, I believe that's like a sergeant's hat. I do. When you looked at various photos of Fort Hood, like group photos, there'd be two individuals in the front with those kinds of hats. So I do believe he had, at least even as just a junior soldier, had a senior position to her. I think that's true. That's the individual right there. And, and then the the girlfriend who's been arrested, and she's got, you know, 2 Instagram accounts and a Twitter account, and you know, and on her Twitter account, it's basically soliciting for, like, you know, feet pics and stuff. It's, you know, that's pretty much the story there, man. It's obviously a terrible shame, and the way the girl was killed and disposed of and potentially dismembered too. I mean, it's just horrendous. It's awful. And that's the story there, man. Thanks for watching my videos. Please subscribe to my channel. Give me a like down below. I'll see you in the next video. Later, man.